process, which never ends. We're either wrapping one up or starting another one. In terms of where we're at today, we don't have 2026 budget all figured out. That's what today is for. You will see on your agenda a few items that administration wants to highlight as projects that are being proposed. One which we don't have a choice on in terms of the system integration project, phase 2, if that's what we're going to call it, and one that you do have a choice on. We're proposing a communications audit. Other items today you might have rolling around in the back of your minds. Oh, can we consider paving this road or that road? Or can we increase service level in this area or that area? This is council's opportunity to provide administration direction, to do some homework, calculate some numbers, and bring those back to council for our budget review meeting in November. So where are we at in the timeline? Today, we're looking for direction. After today, we take that direction, do our homework, crunch some numbers, update the budget plan that we have in our database. Administration and departments take until September 30th to get those numbers in. Once they're in, finance crunches those numbers, balances the budget, looks for grants, restricted surplus funds to balance the budget. And by the end of October, it's our intention to issue the draft budget for council review. November 12th, we have earmarked for council review of the interim budget. We may need to revisit that date. As I understand, Alberta municipalities have their convention that date. So we'll give some thought to that. November 27th, we'll come back and provide a chance for additional review if needed. And by December 11th, we'll be set and ready to go for 2026 approval of the interim budget. Purpose of the budget planning, it's your opportunity to provide direction. We keep this pretty high level. So the recurring services that we've been delivering for decades, we assume as administration we're going to keep delivering those services. If we've had any insight over the years that there is necessary changes to those service levels, either up or down, this would be where we advertise those. We want to confirm assumptions we're going to use for the initial draft of the budget. So if you recall, we just had council pass the 2025 final budget. In that budget, we had assumptions for property tax revenue growth at 2.5% year over year. We're still looking at that. We're optimistic that we will see assessment growth in terms of new assessment coming to the county that will help us achieve that goal. We build assumptions into user fee increases. So each year we've typically been around that 3-4% for utility rate increases. If there is anything you see today that is an assumption that maybe rubs you the wrong way, raise your hand and let us know, and we can go back to the drawing board. And then the 30,000-foot view. What is our capacity as the County of Newell to continue delivering services? So we'll look at a number of financial indicators, and these are not new. You'll have seen them before. You'll have heard the county's auditor speak about them. Long story short, the county is in excellent position to continue to provide the services that we have provided for decades. We want to be sure that we anchor all of our efforts to the county's vision, mission, guiding principles. I'm not going to spend too much time here, but this is an important anchor for us. We want to be a growing county, a prosperous county, a socially responsible county, and a well-governed county. And on that last point, can I just thank this council, as this is our last budget planning meeting together, for governing the county well, not getting caught up in some of the funny business that some of our neighbors have been caught up in. It provides the space for administration to focus on service delivery. So kudos to you for getting along and being laser focused on good governance for your ratepayers. The County of Newell provides services. It's a wild line of business to be in. Water, sewer, roads, wastewater, solid waste, fire and emergency services, occupational health and safety, weed control, soil control, libraries, recreation, and we have all kinds of partnerships to get that done. I love that about this region. The partnerships, we leverage the strengths of everybody in this region, whether it's ag societies, the Solid Waste Authority, the seniors housing. There are a lot of excellent partnerships that help us deliver these services. So when we're looking at the services and contemplating changes, I go back, I look at our 10-year forecast for projects coming. You'll recall last budget review, there was some conversation about a bike pump track down at Emerson Bridge Park. So that's coming in. I asked Todd if him and his crew were crunching some numbers on that. He said they could. If you don't want them to do that, today's the day to say, well, just pump the brakes on the bike pump track. But they're going to be looking at that plan. We'll be looking at our paving plan. I've asked Mark and his crew to get some traffic counts, both on the roads that have been paved and the roads that are on the plan to be paved. And we're going to look at collecting those year after year so we have a little more insight into how our roads are being used as we revisit that paving plan in November. Gravel road construction, remind council that there is a study ongoing for the ballast gravel pit. We're looking at the potential for, is there a return on investment and can we save some kilometers on our trucks for getting gravel out of that pit? Hopefully we'll have that project wrapped up and some insight for you come November. Another interesting project is the Tilley West End subdivision. We've got our engineers looking at that for some potential housing development. We're looking at having a conversation with Palliser Economic Partnership, who's working with the Canada Infrastructure Bank to see if we can leverage some dollars for getting infrastructure there and creating some capacity in the region for residential growth. As we look at the pressures coming up from that Highway 3 corridor in terms of intensive agriculture, we want to be in a position where we can capitalize on that as it moves north. Budget pressures, so just advertising some of the things you'll see in that first draft. Staff capacity, we do have 1.17 FTE, which will be baked into your budget. This is a project assistant coming back from maternity leave. That's a job protected leave, as well as our deputy regional fire chief being included in the budget at full service capacity, whereas 2025, that position was just budgeted for a portion of the year. Cost pressures, inflation, the headlines off inflation. I mean, we're not at the 8-9% that we had peaked at. We're trending in that 2% area. The chart I have here shows 1.7. As soon as I put this in here, the updated chart came out and it's 1.9. So we're going to bake in an assumption of 2% inflation. The wild card is, and if you've got your crystal ball, I'd like you to look into it and tell me where are we going with tariffs. Sounds like there's a commitment from U.S. administration to honor the U.S., Canada, Mexico Free Trade Agreement. That's good news, but it also sounds like if something is not under that umbrella, there will be some kind of tariff baked in, so we'll need to do our homework on what impact that has for our service delivery. Moving on, so 30,000 foot view. This is one of the charts I keep posted in my office because it should be trending up. My expectation is that the county's net worth over time should continually be increasing. The reason for this being, we're largely an asset management company. We manage roads, bridges, water, wastewater systems. The value of those things when we put them in back in the 50s, 60s was quite low. And as we replace them, it's quite a bit higher. So just by virtue of replacing old assets, which were relatively cheap, with newer ones, which are more expensive, this trend should be going up. I would encourage councils everywhere, if this is trending down, you are not serving your community well. If you're deficit budgeting year over year over year and that's on the decline, you are not in a sustainable place as a municipality. What this chart represents is the county's service capacity. The red being the life left in your roads, fire trucks, administration buildings, which is left to be used up over time. And then the green is cash in the bank or your financial assets, which is on standby to fund those replacements over time. The purple, which hardly shows up here, is your liabilities, and what a fortunate position for the County of Newell to be in. Assets far outweighing your liabilities. There is some argument to be made for borrowing more, leveraging yourself, locking in good interest rates when they're there, and you have the capacity to strategically make those moves as a council. I've mentioned we're largely an asset management company. We manage assets, we manage liabilities. Our big brother up in the Capitol in Edmonton, they've got eyes on us. They've got a host of measures that they judge counties' management on, two of which being the investment in infrastructure and the infrastructure age metrics. These come straight from Alberta Municipal Affairs. They've done excellent work, give credit where credit's due, in municipal affairs the last number of years, surfacing and illustrating municipalities' performance. So these two benchmarks here measure our management of our tangible capital assets. The first one, investment in infrastructure, they expect that on average over time, you're investing at least your average amortization charge back into your fixed assets. And you'll see we were the top performer as we were investing in this beautiful administration building, the very valuable rural water system, and then we've kind of dropped off. We dipped below the line there, and that black line is the mark where if you dip below it, you get a phone call from Municipal Affairs, or at least an email, and they ask you, what is going on, Matt, in the County of Newell? Why have you not invested that average? And you have to explain, and if the explanation makes some sense, they'll leave you alone, and if it doesn't, they'll ask you to do something different. Infrastructure age, their expectation is that that is greater than 40% of the original cost, so your net book value. On the next slide, I'll show you where we're at for our various categories, but we've been in a very fortunate position with about 2/3 of the useful life of your assets left to deliver service to your ratepayers. And as we look forward, on average, our expectation is that we will far exceed the average amortization charge in 2026 and our forecast years being reinvested into your capital assets. The projection shows about $17 million on average out to 2035 for reinvestments into tangible capital assets. So this, I just like to highlight that 65% value that you saw on the previous slide. This is how it breaks out into the various categories. So some are lower, some are higher. Overall, you just need to take a drive to Saskatchewan or another municipality, drive down their gravel roads or paved roads to see the difference in life left, as well as management style on those assets. So we are an asset management company. This requires municipal councils, county council, to take the long view, which can sometimes be a challenge when you're only here for 4 years and you want to get specific things accomplished. But we try our best to paint the long view for you. And that is what this chart is showing. So this is straight out of the 2025 final budget, what we've got coming at us for assets that need some reinvestment. So what does this look like? You got your vehicles, roadway system, machinery and equipment, land improvements, buildings. Our estimated capital spending for the next 10 years is right around $164 million. 78% of that, $127.3 million, is for the roadway system. It's a big job taking care of the roads. Mark and his crew do an excellent job for that. New assets, 12.3% of that total estimated spending. So 2026, we've earmarked a bike pump track at Emerson with $160,000. 2027, and this might need to get kicked out, it might be a live question, is the fire hall, $1.7 million, somewhere in the southwest quadrant for the county. And then pavement. We're looking for some new paved roads, $20.2 million. In 2028, 8.86 kilometers of old Highway 1A are in the program from Highway 875 to 876. And then 2033, there's 13.1 kilometers for the remainder of Highway 1A. So those are the new stretches of road. Whether they stay on the plan or council decides to change that plan come November, that is within your, at your pleasure. There has been some conversation about Range Road 14.5 in the past. That's the stretch of road that goes up to the auction mart, as well as Township Road 18.2, just south of the county here, that 1 mile stretch. So if those are projects that you would like to see administration think about and bake into the plan, today would be a good day to highlight that for us. Taking the long view, I can guarantee you, you are not going to spend $168 million. That number is wrong. How wrong it is, we don't know, but we have a pattern of what the spending is going to look like over that period of time. When I look at this, I always ask the question, what's not in there? Well, the county's share of the City of Brooks wastewater treatment plant upgrades is not in here. That's a live question ongoing with the city. You'll recall the city treats wastewater from Lake Newell Resort. The agreement which we have with the city requires the county to fund a proportionate share of any capital upgrades based on the volume of effluent that Lake Newell Resort represents. So we're going to need to do generates, yeah. So we've got some homework to do there. Talked about the Tilley West End subdivision, whether there's an investment required there from the county. Ballast Pit Gravel Road is not in here. And I'll remind council, we had a conversation about potentially taking over the Rosemary Fire service, and there may need to be some dollars for Rosemary Fire Hall. So those are not in this plan. What has the potential to shift out or come off? Well, we talked about the fire hall and anything else that council desires, right? So if this plan in your minds looks like more than the community can bear, we can shuffle. All right, next slide. Roadway system, we talked about, I think we're good. Yeah, roadway system. So this is just focused entirely on roadway system. So we've got the new pavement showing up there, 27, 28, 2033, paving overlays. We're just coming up to a pile of work for Jeff and Roxanne to take care of in terms of the first overlay, resurfacing of all of the roads which previous councils have paved. It's a pretty big price tag. We've got the EID drainage partnership in here, baked in at $1 million a year. I'm not convinced we're gonna take this thing out 10 years based on the progress we've made on the drainage partnership in the last number of years. So that could be something that provides a little more flexibility back to the county. We've got gravel road construction baked in at $1.8 million a year. When we look at paving specifically, overlays, 185.23 kilometers at an estimated cost of $62.9 million. So it's always really good for us to anchor our expectations. We want new pavement, but once we have it, we also want to be sure we've got the capacity to maintain it going into the future. And it's not a cheap service level to provide to our ratepayers. New kilometers, 21.96 kilometers at an estimated 18.3 million. Bridges, you've got 25 to replace over the next 10 years. These were built between 1953 and 2012. They're on our books at $1.6 million original cost, which is a great deal. If we could buy those 25 bridges today for $1.6 million, we'd do it. Unfortunately, the estimated replacement cost on those is $18.16 million. As we move into the next slides where we contemplate, okay, if these things are on the books at 1.6 and we need to come up with 18.1 million to replace them, how are we going to get that job done? Funding sources. User fees, grants, debt, restricted surplus, which is your savings, or taxes. There's not a lot of options for how to get the job done. So let's look at our user fees. We have had administratively a philosophy, and it's been supported by council, that over time we're trying to shift more of the burden for specifically identifiable services to the user who benefits from them. Benefits-based model of intergovernmental finance. Those who benefit from municipal services should pay for them. Folks would support that. On average, this only represents about 7.5% of our operating budget over the last 5 years. So what are we proposing? Well, campground, today we're not contemplating any changes to the campground fees. Last increased in 2023, and some meaningful increase in 2023. Minibus, we've been increasing $2 per trip. Increase the last number of years, we're gonna persist with that. Utilities, we're looking in that 4% range. So as we look at kind of the 5-year average of the deficits for our utility systems, they're relatively steady. It depends which system springs a leak, how many times and where. There is room to increase utility fees and shift that out of the tax column into the user fee column. Philosophy when we're looking at user fees, is it a private service? So we can see when Councillor Johnson goes to use the rec center, he's on the treadmill, we want to charge him for that. This is a conversation that also comes into our agreement review and renewal. So you'll have seen the headline from the City of Brooks on their YAP pass and corporate discounts. That's a policy choice that has a direct impact on the gap left to fund from taxpayers. Working with the City of Brooks to update that agreement, and my view, it's always nice when the user pays what it costs to use the service. Mixed, this is where, when Councillor Johnson is on the treadmill, there's actually some public benefit back in terms of lower healthcare costs, community building. So maybe there's an argument that we don't charge 100% of what it costs. You can maybe convince me. And then public service. This is where it benefits the public, and it's really tricky to exclude somebody from using that service. An example would be a public park or a public pathway. The rub here is, a pathway has some capacity limits as well. You get too many people on it, and it's not useful for everybody. So that's the philosophy or the lens that we look at user fees through. Moving on, grants, bad news story. Call it what it is when it comes to the County of Newell and where we were historically in support from the province for capital funding. And I will say MSI was maybe a disappointment in terms of what it was advertised and committed to be, and then what it actually shook out to be. Our MSI and the local government fiscal framework capital program, we were around that 3 million, 3.5 when it was MSI. We've taken a haircut, and it's significant. You're looking at about half of what you used to receive. So this is a gap that either we reduce service level or find resources elsewhere, or we push things off. And an example of things we've pushed off is our paving plan, right? So council has calibrated expectations to the capacity of the community to fund. The new reality, you're around that $1.7 million a year. In terms of the usefulness of those dollars in the budget period we're looking at, the next 4 years, these dollars are going to pay for the Rural Water Project Phase 2, which just wrapped up. So you're looking at maybe 2029 before new LGFF capital dollars are available to fund new projects. On the Canada Community Building Fund side of things, this has been a little steadier, and you'll see a little bit of growth there, around $500,000 coming in. Other grants, which we're happy to receive, LGFF operating, ASB gets a few grants from the province to support their Riverwalk and some of their agricultural programming. LGFF operating, we will be bringing a proposal to council with the new Intermunicipal Affairs Committee and Brooks Newell Region Economic Development Agreement to shave or direct 2% of that towards those initiatives. Historically, we've directed those to funding bylaw enforcement, corporate safety, and solid waste. Debt, how much can you borrow? About $67 million. How much do you have outstanding currently? About 3.6. On an annual basis, the province thinks you could service about 11.2 million. I don't think that's necessarily reasonable or a rational approach to things, but those are the limits and the benchmarks that they judge you against. And you'll see the projects that have been funded by debt and get settled each year by taxes to those specific communities and when they're expected to come off. The more you're leveraged, the less flexibility you have. We're in an awesome position as a county because we've got a lot of flexibility to consider projects and respond to needs as they arise. Things to keep in mind when we're thinking of debt, we do have a couple of loose ends or unfinished business on commitments that council has made. The first being to the Connection Flats project in Bassano, where there's a motion on the books to fund up to 25% of those project costs, pending a formal request coming from the Seniors Foundation. And then Duchess Ag Society, more recent, a to-be-determined dollar amount. And I understand the Ag Society may not actually pursue that. So once we can close the loop on that, we'll take those out. But those are some loose ends to keep in mind. They may have an impact on our debt capacity.
Quick question. Is there any capacity, or are we able to renegotiate any of these? Or the interest rate at the head gates I'm looking at?
Yes, you can renegotiate. Typically with ACFA, you're locked in, so renegotiating typically comes with a prepayment penalty. The one that we have paid out early at the county was related to the Newell Housing Foundation. The numbers at the time made sense to pay it out. So it all depends on where interest rates are at, where they're expected to go, and the value of that prepayment penalty. Restricted surplus. What's in the piggy bank? And I want you to anchor back. I just like the example of our bridges because it's easy, it's visual. You'll recall the 25 bridges are on the books at 1.6 million. Over the next 10 years, you're going to replace them. Estimated cost 18 million. The county had nearly 142 million in restricted surplus at the end of 2024. And when we compared the specific funds to the value of the assets that have been used, our infrastructure fund, which supports our bridges, was basically 100%. So what that means in reality is that $1.6 million original cost for those bridges, They're fully amortized. In theory, you have $1.6 million in cash in your investments available, ready to go to replace those bridges. The gap is you need $18 million. So when folks get excited that the county's sitting on $142 million, yes, it's a lot of money, and no, it's not enough, especially when the province cuts your capital grant funding by half. So context matters in the scheme of things. This is a critical component of the county's asset management and tax stabilization strategies. When we look at what is in our restricted surplus, and sometimes folks like to call this slush fund, $5 million in stabilization. Well, what's stabilization? Well, stabilization is actually important and very important to the County of Newell in terms of the ongoing conversation at the provincial level on the assessment model review, which is looking at non-residential assessment, which pays a large portion of the bills and provides an excellent level of service to county ratepayers. If that assessed value is at risk, it would be prudent for the county to have some flexibility to respond to a decline in that assessed value. You also have in here right around $510 million in your regional enhancement fund. That is fully committed. So council committed the remaining balance to getting CDC South off the ground. We have in our email this morning a request from the city for directing the remainder of their share towards a project at the rec center. We're waiting for a request from Division 9 up in GEM. They've got about $69,000 left there. And once those dollars are spent, that fund will be closed out. So you might ask, should we be saving more, Matt? Yes, there's an argument to be made for saving more. But the county, when you compare with other rural municipal districts, you're in a very, very fortunate position. Where are we at? Savings, taxes, everybody's favorite, right? I think I've only heard once a ratepayer come to the county and it recounted to me that, oh man, your farmland taxes are so low. So I think this fellow must also be farming in Lethbridge County or something like that, where, you know, the farmland mill rate's 30, over 30. And then they have a number of other tax rates, special business tax rates or per head tax rate on top of that. So County of Newell is an awesome place. If you want to come raise a family, you want to get into farming, this is the place to be. So property tax revenues, assessed value divided by 1,000 times your tax rate, that's the revenue we can generate. We have been focused on encouraging and attracting development, first of all, to cover those inflationary budget increases and the risk of tariffs coming at us. Service level enhancements, which read that as new paved roads, and then to improve our tax competitiveness. On average, the last 5 years, property taxes make up about 78% of our operating revenue. Looking at policies we have in place, and the slide after this will illustrate we're in a very fortunate position when it comes to collecting property taxes. We have municipalities in this province which are on the verge of bankruptcy because they have not collected their taxes from a few oil and gas ratepayers, and it puts them at risk. So policies, tax discount if paid by June 15th, and this is kind of legacy policy left after pandemic, where we were really concerned about being able to cash flow things. Let's dangle the carrot. The carrot is still there, 2.5%. These are meaningful amounts, especially as they compound over time. So nearly $5 million left in ratepayers' pockets since 2020, just for paying your taxes by the June 15th deadline. Your small business tax rate, this gives small business, non-residential, we set their tax rate at around 75% of the non-res rate. $764,000 left in small business pockets over that time period. So $5.8 million left in ratepayer pockets. We could have that showing up in that restricted surplus chart. We left it in ratepayers' pockets for them to invest and grow their businesses. That's a good news story. Are the policies working? Again, this comes from Municipal Affairs. They like to look at the tax collection rate for all municipalities. They want to see greater than a 90% tax collection rate. If it dips below this, they think you're going to have problems, and I would agree with them. And a big thank you to County of Newell ratepayers for paying their taxes. This is the grease. It greases the wheels. It keeps services running. Always around 98.5%. Looking at our tax rates. And tax rates don't tell the entire story about what's going on with your tax revenues, but this is what policy choices have translated into over the last 5 years. So the county did have a policy of increasing the farmland tax rate over time. We've gone from farmland assessment supporting around a third of the ag services budget in 2014 to around 65% in 2025. So we've made some meaningful movement on farmland tax policy. And when we talk the ag services budget, that's the entire department. And the department provides more than just direct services to farmers. Todd and his crew also cut grass in the hamlets, provide service down at Emerson Bridge Park. So there are some community services baked into the overall ag services department budget. That's meaningful progress there. Small business tax, you'll see that, that green line there. And what I like seeing are these downward trends. Like, that is great, especially when revenues have increased over the same period of time. So what that means, if you think about the property tax revenue equation, is we've had assessment going up. And not just inflationary assessment where, you know, the current residential properties increase in value, it's new properties coming to the county. So where do things shake out? How does the county compare when it comes to its tax rates compared to everybody else? The green bar on this chart will show our 2025 tax rate at the County of Newell, the first one for residential. Your 2025 residential rate was around 85.3% of 2024 municipal district average. That's great. We're below average. Top 10 in 2024 in the province for just municipal districts, we're at 2.63 and lower. So I'll sound like a broken record. Above average service levels, below average tax rates. That's a goal for administration. Looking at farmland, the county's 2025 farmland rate was 74.8% of the 2024 municipal district average. The top 10 in 2024 were at 5 and lower. Non-residential, our rate was 57% of the 2024 municipal district average. The top 10 in 2024 were at 8.688 and lower. So, depending where things go in 2025 for all of our peers in the province, the County of Newell could potentially be in the top 10 for the lowest non-residential municipal tax rates for 2025, but we'll have to wait to see where that shakes out. And then, where's the money come from? Who's paying the bills at the County of Newell? Just for council's information, like to provide this each year. Assessment on the non-residential side, so you're going to have to do the math on small business plus non-res plus commercial plus industrial. Those comprise your non-residential group. They represent about 75% of the assessment, and on the taxation front, they pay about 83% of the bills. Very fortunate position to be in as a rural municipal district to have such strong non-residential assessment. And with that, I will open it up to questions, comments. Like I said, we don't have it all figured out today. We're looking for council direction to inform that process.
Thank you, Matt. That's a good overview. And I'll just, if there's questions, just raise your hand. But I'm just thinking about a couple of things that you talked about specifically. You raised the pump track at Emerson Bridge Park. And we've talked about that some, but I think, is this the time that we engage in that? I think, and as well as, and I, excuse me, maybe we get a list of things that we want to talk about here. One of the things I think is the service road that runs out to the auction market. We've talked about that in the past, and I'd like to re-engage on that as well with council. What are the other things that we might want to talk about? Maybe just refresh my memory if there's things you think we should be responding to relative to what you've raised. Those are two things that I'd like to make sure we talk a little bit about. What else is there that should be there? Holly, please.
Just in terms of that pump track, I'd be curious to know in that discussion how much we have spent at Emerson Campground in the past 4 years and how that breaks down per campsite. I'm just curious what we're spending on that resource of ours. In terms of the minibus $2 increase, I'm wondering how that's coming out in affordability scale. I know it's an expensive thing we're doing, but in terms of what that works out in terms of constant raises for the people who are using it and who have budgetary constraints. And then campgrounds, we haven't raised them in it will be 3 years. Where do we fall in line with other campgrounds? I'm not a camper, so I don't know that. Thank you.
Okay, those are some specifics. Somewhat, the new one is particularly the minibus, but what else would you like to talk about? Greg and then Neil, please.
Yeah, I'd like to, I think a discussion on 18-2, that 1 mile stretch
Right.
out here.
Okay. South of the county building that goes east and west to the, yeah. Okay. Anything else, Neil?
Yeah, just on I think the pump track is a great idea, but you have to keep in mind, we've only got 50 campsites out there. Why wouldn't we partner with EID and plunk one at Crawling Valley or out at Rolling Hills where there's 150, 175 sites? It would serve way more people, and it's just an idea. Some partnerships are always good, and good advertising for us to partner with those people.
Okay, so I don't know, appreciate that. We can talk about that in relation to the pump track for sure. Any other areas that you want to talk about? Dan, please.
Actually, yeah, I agree with Councillor Johnson on that pump track, maybe a better location or multiple locations. There's, asphalt patching in our hamlets too. I don't know that maybe that falls into the paving plan, or maybe that's a separate thing, but maybe we can have a discussion about how do we deal with the patching and repairs of asphalt within the hamlets.
Okay, thanks. Kelly, go ahead.
Well, and Councillor Short reminded me of the infrastructure before we do the paving in the hamlets. So I think a conversation needs to be had specifically around infrastructure in Rolling Hills.
Okay, thank you. Another thing I think we should put on there is just a conversation about the implications of CDC to our bottom line. I think you mentioned that we have allocated the $180,000 that we had in the economic development portfolio, basically. But what are how do we view that going forward? Neil, you had another area?
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Like, I don't think we should get too revved up until we get CDC under control. That's a huge project, and we don't know where it's going yet. That's just my comment on that one. But like, we have to watch it. It's a good thing. Hopefully we can make it work, but we have a lot of work to do before that thing's running itself.
Yeah, no, that's right. Lynette?
Just, I guess, the comparison of like the cost of overlays as to whether like that, the increase that I'm sure we're seeing, should we even be talking about new pavement right now?
Okay, no, that's in the context of that for sure. I think that's good. One more, Neil?
Yeah, just from our experience in the last few months, I see these arenas as being something we should be ready for. Like they're coming at us. You got $1 million needed at Dutchess, Rolling Hills, Rosemary, Tilly. That's a huge, you want to start eating up surplus, there it is right there.
Recreation.
Recreation.
For sure, yeah.
Particularly in the arenas, like who's going to pay for it?
Yeah. Okay. Is that a reasonable list of discussion points to broach into at this point? Oh, Dan.
I got one more. It's a specific request that came in from the Hamlet Advisory Board. Don't think it's really something that needs to be on the budget, but I asked, this is what they delivered for me, so I will put it out there. Fencing around the cemetery. I'm not even sure whose responsibility it is, but it is in need of repair, so I don't know if there's going to be, if that's too small of an amount to be worried about, or if it's even our responsibility, but it's out there now anyways.
Okay, thank you. Well, with that, what do we have? The first one is the pump track, right? Is that a reasonable place to start, Matt? Or go ahead, you probably have a...
I would suggest we continue with the department initiatives.
Okay.
Get through 5.1, 1, and 2, and then just work through the list as it came out. And we can confirm with council if these items are supported for the administrative effort for the various analyses and bringing back some numbers and information to budget review
Okay, I think that's
in November.
good procedure. Let's appreciate that. So move on to department initiatives, right? Roberta, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. So I'll just kind of go through the RFC, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Give you a little bit of history. In 2009, the then County Council put a corporate priority to administration to provide, replace our software systems with an integrated system. It took us till about 2011 to get things going with a few false starts, documenting our business requirements. Between 2011 and 2013, we were able to move our financial system into two systems, which is our current financial system and our costing system. Between 2013 and 2015, we redid our GIS structure and system, and we also moved into our current EDRMS system, which is Laserfiche. Our useful life in tangible capital assets for software is 10 years. We've gone beyond that. Our systems have worked well for us, and we're still really pleased with them. Unfortunately, the people who make them aren't. So we had, first last year, we had notification that there was a significant change to our Laserfiche system. We know that a time will come where it's going to move to a hosted system. That's going to impact everything that we have built. That's our understanding now. We just ran an assessment tool, and we have significant changes that have to be done to all the configuration that we've done before we can shift to a hosted system. Understanding that, Council provided a budget for us to start looking for some alternatives. It was a good time to do a review. If we have to redo things, we may as well see if there's a different option for us. This year, then, we heard that our financial system reaches end of life in 2029. That's now 2 of the 4 major systems that we had replaced in 2011, or starting in 2009. It's kind of a good time maybe to do a holistic review of all those applications. What's I think is important to understand is when you implement an application and multiple applications, you can get gaps in functionality and you can get overlap in functionality. So understanding you can't look just at, again, my opinion, one system, because you're going to end up maybe purchasing more than you really need, or you're going to produce a gap that didn't exist before. So understanding how all these independent systems work together is important to understand how that'll work. So 2 systems now have to be reviewed. It's a good time for us to do a review of all of our systems. We know from experience that that's not an easy thing to do. It's very complex. It's multi-year. It takes almost everybody, all staff at the County of Newell, to be involved to make those transitions and to get that input. You can see we have a lot of strategic questions that need to be answered. We have our essential question, what is the best way for us to approach the replacement, review and replacement of these systems? Of course, we have our key results. We only want good things out of this. You know, we want to have success. We need to have a new financial system put in place by 2029. We want to make sure all the stakeholders involved, all the customers involved are getting their needs looked after. It takes a lot more people than just one person to implement those things or one department. Of course, we don't want any interruption to financial services, and we hope to have an updated system and have a way for us to transition with our EDRMS. We've got a list of some requisites, and of course there's unintended outcomes, one of which I think is important for us to understand, just like Matt had said about bridges. At the time that they were constructed, it was $1.5 million, you said. Now it's $18 million to replace them. The same happens with every other asset, including software applications. So there's a possibility that what we have put away for that replacement will not be enough to replace new systems. So that's one area we anticipate there can be some challenges. Of course, staff, it takes a lot of work for staff. We have other projects, other priorities to do. I think that's one reason why to note this is coming, because we want to make sure that we don't overload staff. So staff fatigue and frustration, I think that's a real concern that we have to anticipate. And there's a possibility that there's going to be disruption or interruption for short periods of time, changes. Not everybody enjoys the change, so there could be frustration from end users and from the public when we make transitions and changes. I think we just want to look and let council know that this is coming. We know we're going to have to do it. Our systems will not be supported after a certain period of time, or a significant change is going to be required, an input from us. And as things become more clear to us, we will certainly bring them forward to council and make sure you have the information you need to make the decisions being asked of you. That's it.
Thank you, Roberta. Are there questions? Neil, go ahead.
Can you just touch on this? Like, this is from Inventures. I think we have to keep right on top of all your technology, be on the top of the pack. How does all this AI stuff fit into what you're talking about? Because that's mind-boggling. I actually love it. It's cool.
It is a very, very good question. That is one of the significant changes. What happens over 10 years? What new features are available to us? How can that work for us? Every new system that we're bringing in has a certain amount of AI components to it. So we have to understand the security risks related to those. Some applications use multiple AI systems for that functionality in their system. But it's a great opportunity for us to look what's out there and leverage that, the AI components to new applications. Yeah, definitely a great opportunity.
And just for clarification, that's in your radar, reflected in what you've said, correct? Because as you replace things, we want to figure out where the puck is going to be, right? and AI is probably one of the big uncertainties with regard to what's going to impact, in quotation marks, where the puck is going to be, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. We've already talked about internally about use of AI, how it can help us become more efficient and effective, and where those opportunities are. So I think it'll come through with documenting business requirements, and then of course looking at the security aspect of it, just to make sure we're protecting things and being responsible. But yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Thanks. Greg, go ahead, please.
Yeah, and with these changes, I mean, we're not inventing the wheel here. We are, there are many municipalities that are looking at the same type of systems right now. I know, and so I mean, we can draw on their expertise and their opinions on some of these things, and also. In your travels, is there a Canadian option? Are there Canadian options that aren't maybe so influenced by some other countries that we can buy more within our own area? That would be great. I know the MNP program, like Myers Nurse, I don't know how they're integrated, but there's some good stuff coming out right now, so.
Yeah, I think, anything you can do to support your country where you live and you want success for them and that's success for all of us, definitely that should be something we want to understand. And you're right, reliance on others is important to consider. Yeah. I'm just not aware right now what opportunities are out there until we start evaluating. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Holly, go ahead, please.
Good morning. Do you have an idea of the financial implications of this, or it's really too early to tell?
I feel it's a little too early to tell, but I know that other municipalities, has been stated, have done some replacing recently, and Matt might be able to speak more about what they've told him.
Go ahead, Matt. Thanks.
I won't name the municipality specifically, but the numbers would make you blush. So a city in the Northwest recently replaced their system for $5 million. Their annual subscription is $500,000 with another $400,000 for support. That will not be the system that the County of Newell looks at. Our current provider has some potential options. They're working on things. It would be great to minimize the impact of this project. Like I fear, and I'm not joking. I'm afraid of this project because it's not going to be the project we did in 2011 to 2013 because technology has changed. We've got higher expectations. I don't know about you, but my patience level is 0 for any kind of delay when it comes to technology, and I think we have an administration building full of those folks. I think the reality is going to be we're all going to have to deal with a bit of frustration. Those of us who are comfortable in our groove, and I'll include myself in that group, we have spent hundreds on thousands of hours building the current system over the last decade, currently improving. We've built workflows, we've automated things, and these are great things because they're productivity enhancing. So when we're looking at this project, we will be looking for all of the productivity enhancing tools, AI being key. I would ask my staff to be open to learning and changing and embracing new ways of doing things. So it may be that there is a tool that AI can replace a core part of any one of our jobs. I would invite employees to embrace that, and we will find meaningful work for you to do. There is a laundry list of projects that have been trailing us for years, one of which, I'll point out is the use of county road allowances. When these come to us, we always have a conversation about the value. Well, the value we receive from these folks who are coloring inside the lines is great. I don't know that we want to penalize them further until we've got everybody coloring inside the lines. So there's a project that's been following us for decades that we can redirect as we adopt these productivity enhancing tools. There is a body of work remaining at the county that is worth getting after, but we've throttled the effort over time to manage reasonable tax rates, reasonable service delivery, and we take our time. But it's going to be a big project. It will require everybody, and it will require us to go through another learning curve. And if you're my age, having been through several learning curves and feel like you've arrived, it gets a little stickier, it gets a little harder. The gray matter's not as quick as it used to be, so it'll be a challenge for us. But what I'm optimistic about is the team that we have to get the job done, because we've done it before. We know what to expect, and we've all stuck to the task and been successful. So I'm expecting excellent outcomes. I'm really optimistic on the productivity enhancement from AI. Even just in terms of like preparing requests for decision or requests for clarification for council when, you know, a question comes in and you need to search council minutes. Well, right now that's a pretty manual kind of process. With the right skill and prompting, AI should be able to go through our repository of council minutes and surface the relevant components and speed up that process. Or drafting a letter of support, or drafting, I don't know, a resolution for RMA. There is a lot of time I think we can shave off by investing a little bit in staff training and getting people adopting those tools. But this is going to be a big project. We're not in a bind until 2029, and we want to make sure we're not in a bind in 2029. So managing staff capacity and the other wish lists that come on and demand staff capacity is going to be a big challenge for management team to make sure we've got the right capacity internally to get after the project, as well as anything else that council identifies as an initiative for the community. Capacity is going to be key. And we may need extra capacity in the near term to get over that hump and get this project completed successfully. So that's largely what this is an advertisement that there's going to be a squeeze. It's going to be a meaningful squeeze on folks, but we're going to get through it, and it's going to be better than ever coming out of it.
Thank you for that, Matt. And I'm going to suggest that we all just kind of highlight that little vignette as a leadership position for county, because for all of us, I think that was excellent and significant in terms of we all have a great deal of respect for how we've always done things, but the opportunity to say maybe there's a better way, and I think the clarity from leadership to say that no one is at risk from identifying a better way. That's what we look for our leadership people to do, and the people in every one of our positions to, if there's a better way, let's find it. Let's not get stuck on how we did it yesterday, because there might be a better way, and I appreciate that as a leadership position, and I think as council we need and want to endorse that. So thank you. Kelly, go ahead.
If I may ask a question about the present system, Roberta. I've received a lot of positive feedback about our online opportunities that we offer now, and it's been about 5 years, I would suggest. Maybe 8 years. Are we up to 8 years online? Oh my goodness, okay. My question that I get quite often is, at time of vote, the camera is focused on the person with the mic on. And so the viewing public has no idea, you know, the chair will say carried or not carried, but there's no opportunity for the viewing public. And I watch I watch our council meetings, I watch other municipality council meetings. I'm just wondering if that's within our capabilities with the present system or not. Just a question.
It is. It would involve a learning curve and a change to the way you currently do things. But there's actually on your microphones, on that little screen, you can have a vote button, and you could do it that way, which then comes up onto the screen, and it kind of tells you who who agreed and disagreed. I think there's a number, that's one opportunity, and I know Catherine probably knows if there's others. But yes, we can in fact do that differently than we do it now. That might meet the needs of that, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Dan, go ahead.
With this system not being supported in a few years, are there other municipalities in the area that are going to be in the same pickle? Is there any kind of potential to reduce costs for multiple municipalities in some form of partnership?
Thanks, Dan. Matt, you want to speak to that?
Yes, and actually, Canoe Procurement Group is contemplating whether they lead a charge on this. Our peers in Willow Creek have kicked off a group for the south. I've had conversations with our peers to the west in Wheatland County who run some of the same systems as us, not exactly the same as us. So that is going to be an area that we kick around as an option.
Okay, thank you. Amanda, please.
Just curious, when you're looking at new systems, do they give you a trial period so you can try out many systems and see what's a fit for us?
There is that opportunity, and we've been, it's been offered for Laserfish Cloud, for example. It takes significant work to do those, and sometimes when you're, and it's work and time. So it has to be kind of scheduled. You have to make sure you have the people who can do the proper testing, that they have capacity to do the testing. We did a similar thing. We did a pilot project to look at moving from our current EDRMS system to Office 365. We kind of thought that's a way for us to reduce costs because we could get rid of the one system, which we were paying significant dollars annually for, to utilize something that we already have licensing for. It was a 6-month pilot project. Stephanie might want to talk about her experience with that. We always have great teams. Like what Matt said about the people involved, I have to say we've done a few projects and the staff here are wonderful. The teams here, they're committed. They do the testing, but it does take them away from their regular work. And in fact, we talked about that in our debrief. There is opportunity. I think it's smart to do it when it makes sense to do it, but you have to make sure the timing's right for everybody involved and make sure you get the right people testing it, right? Someone might have opportunity, but they're not the right people to give the feedback. But you can do that. You run into challenges sometimes. For example, when we moved from our old financial system to the new one, the codes weren't the same, right? So you have to do a configuration. When we had to migrate that, we had to take all the codes for, you know, I don't know, fire divisions, tax codes, whatever, and we had to convert them to new ones that would fit into the new system. To do a pilot, we'd have to probably do that same exercise, or we would have to start from scratch to configure the system. It's a big job to do that. Where it makes sense to do that, certainly that's something we look at doing, yeah.
Thank you, and I guess maybe some of those kinds of tasks might be addressed by AI too, hopefully in the future, I would think, but I don't know what I'm talking about, so. Okay. Any other questions, or are we ready to move on? Thank you, Roberta, for that. I'm going to suggest we take 5 and then move to 5.1.2 right after that. Thanks, Roberta. I'm going to take this infrequent opportunity to give you advice about how upgrading your computer. But I think some of the discussion points that we've had with regard to our agenda have been added to our computers. So if you look up on the left-hand corner of your screen, there's that circular, just punch that, and it will update your computer with the council initiatives discussion that we will have in a few minutes. So, yeah, top left-hand corner, there's a circular arrow. The refresh button, yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah. If you can recognize it. Okay, let's carry on. 5.1.2, Matt, you can take us through communications audit?
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty simple idea. So council has supported administration with our communications position. My directors lead the communications governance committee. We have a communications plan. There has been a big focus administratively on communicating well and closing gaps. And still we encounter folks who feel like they haven't been communicated properly with. Or, you know, it's the county's fault that I didn't know I was supposed to get a permit for building a structure over top of your new rural water line. So there's always, and there will always be, opportunity to improve when it comes to communication. In the province, well, and actually it's nationally, a new communications association targeted for municipalities has been developed. So this space, I think folks are realizing more and more, we got to do better at communicating. And there's better ways to communicate all the time. So I've attended a few conferences this year, heard a few organizations that engage in this, and I thought, oh, that might be a great opportunity for the county to have an outside view on what we've structured and identify any gaps and help us get to the next level, whatever that looks like. So in terms of pricing, I think you're going to be in that $10,000 to $20,000 range, depending on what we look for. This is a new addition. It's something we have never done before. And if council likes the idea, we'll get an estimate and bake it into the 2026 budget. And if council says, meh, we'd like to save $10,000 to $20,000, we'll just let the idea die with Matt coming back from a conference with the idea. So it's presented for your feedback and in conversation, but we do think there are things we could learn from an external review of what we've got shaken here at the county.
Okay, questions? That sounds like an interesting idea to me, Neil.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, but you have to remember there's a certain percentage of our demographic that it doesn't matter what you do, they will not use your communication system. Most of them are my age. They still use flip phones. We still have to cater to them. Can't forget about them. Let time take care of them over the next little while. But no, that's a really good idea.
Okay, thank you. Lynette.
Is the idea of the audit to look at all communications, like letters, not just the social media stuff?
Yes. Yeah, all encompassing. So, you know, this year we're trying something new. We've taken page 2 of the Brooks Bulletin. We're going to be proposing some additional video content creation, and this will be a way to look at the whole program and say, you know, you're missing a really important demographic. You need more print. You should actually have a strategy for posting things on every post office bulletin board, or maybe the post office isn't the best place to go. So I would like it to be all-encompassing, which means the pricing's probably closer to that $15,000 to $20,000 mark than just a quick overview. I want something meaningful and action items that help us take it to the next level. Because it's frustrating for staff when you've had 2 open houses on a project, and it's after the open house that folks start saying, you're not touching my driveway, there's going to be a class action lawsuit, and you just think, well, let's bridge the communication gap. What are we excited about, and how can we accommodate you? Because I don't think we need to lawyer up on a project that's going to benefit you and your neighbors. So there have been, specific instances over the last year where you're like, we've sent communications, we've got the inserts in the utility bill, and my observation is, and it's me as well, my capacity or interest in reading or being communicated with is directly related to what I'm paying attention to at any specific time. So there is so much information coming at all of us all of the time. It doesn't matter that we've told you, a dozen times in the last year that you need to get an electric permit or a gas permit when you're constructing an ag building. The message out there is that ag buildings, I've got carte blanche, I can do what I want, and if I've done something different, then it's your fault to the county that I did that thing. So those are some of the gaps that we want to bridge, is to ensure that folks are taking reasonable action. Another one, we've had ratepayers out digging in our ditches. Had TC Energy call, really excited because somebody just about hit TC Energy's national pipeline. Well, I just thought I'd borrow a little bit of dirt from the ditch. Well, we need to get some communication out there about one call and your responsibility as a county ratepayer to do reasonable, rational things that don't put you and the community at great risk. So there are some really meaningful communication gaps we have out there, and I don't have the expertise to tell you what we need to do different, but I'm convinced there's something different that needs to be done so we can avoid some of these potential catastrophes. They were the skin of our teeth up there on that TC Energy line. Terrifies me.
And you're estimating that for 15 to 20,000, you can get a meaningful approach to this? I mean, to me, that sounds like pretty meaningful potential if you can do it. I mean, that's not a big deal to improve communication if you're comfortable with that. So, Holly, go ahead.
I think your comment, Matt, about people being overloaded with media and messaging is right on the mark. And I'm not against us doing this, but I don't think our expectations should be that high. People are overloaded. They're really not going to listen no matter what we do. So I don't know how much we want to, nothing wrong with looking into this, but I think our world is crazy with information coming at us, and people have a threshold, and they also have a belief that they can do what they want, and that is pretty hard to combat. So,
okay, thanks. Adina?
Well, I think if we can educate, say, the farmers who think they can build whatever they want when they want, if we can do that for 20,000, I think that's money well spent, because there definitely needs to be some education out there about that.
Okay, I think thank you, as has been indicated, it's probably in various different channels where there's opportunity. So is that adequate? And you heard what we need to hear on that? Neil, go ahead.
Yeah, that's only $2 a head. I mean, nothing. Postage stamp.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So we can move on. Let's move on to number 6, which is the council initiatives that we started to enumerate before. And let's start right off the top. We won't necessarily have to spend a whole bunch of time, hopefully, on all of these, but I think we're looking for direction with regard to, is this a yay or a nay, or is there some things we can pull off? So Emerson Bridge Park pump track, and I think the number I heard there was around $160,000, not to build it, or is it to build it, or is that just to build it? Okay. What are your thoughts? Adina?
Sorry, I didn't mean to snap. That was rude. I'm just going to speak to this because it originally was kind of my idea. I'd like to see something down there to attract more people. We have people lining up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get to Rolling Hills Reservoir. Emerson Bridge has just about everything. We don't have a lake, but we do have a river you can play in. I just feel like it's a safety thing. We could get the bikes off the road, lots of kids riding around on their bikes on the road, and I am a camper down there, so I have seen that. It adds something. There hasn't been the pathways, they built some pathways, that's great. I would just like to see something else for the kids that are maybe a little too old to play on the park, have something else to do with their bikes, and there is a lot of bikes down there.
Okay, thank you. Other perspectives? Neil?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it before. I agree with everything you just said. There's only 50 campsites down there. If you want to hit a bunch of kids, how many is there, 60? There's 175 at Rolling Hills and equal amount or more at Crawling Valley. Why wouldn't we, as a county, hit the maximum usage?
Okay, thanks, Neil. Adina, again? Kelly?
It's 160,000. I think if the EID wanted to put a pump track in their campground, they could afford 160,000. Whether it's 15 kids or 25 kids, somebody gets hurt, that's one too many. I've been to Rolling Hills Reservoir, really busy. I don't know where they would put one, but definitely there's room for one at Emerson Bridge. We might as well be a starter.
Okay, thank you. Kelly?
I just wanted to make the point that we would be enhancing our own asset and encouraging people, families, to come out to Emerson Bridge. And it is a different camping experience than Crawling Valley or Rolling Hills Res. We don't want to be the same, I don't think. You want to have variety. If all campsites were the same, then people would just park and stay there all summer. But we want people to come and experience different sites, and that's why they have trailers on wheels to do that. So I think investing in our own campsite is the way to go on this project, and I think 160, if I can't get my water park, is okay. I'm a water person, and I think water's where it's at, but anyway, it's I would not spend 160 on an asset of the EIDs. I would at our own asset, though.
Okay, thank you. And that would also then be available to day use participants, correct? Fully, I mean, there's a day use component at Emerson that's significant. Go ahead, Greg, please.
Yeah, I see it as an attraction component to the park. I don't know what our usage is. I imagine we have spots there pretty well all the time. If it's the word will get out that there's something there for the kids, it might be able to fill it, which would be great. It helps enhance our infrastructure, our service to the ratepayers. Now, I think, I'm for putting something in there as long as it's not going to be a major maintenance issue every year over year. I'm thinking it's dirt, right? So dirt and hills. So I'm thinking if there's a bit of mowing and cutting and stuff around there, but if it's not a major maintenance type of project, I'm all for it.
Okay, thanks. Are there any other perspectives, or what do we need? A motion or just a nod? Matt, what are you looking for specifically, maybe?
I don't know that we need a motion unless somebody's entirely opposed to the idea. Administration will do the work. It'll show up in your interim budget draft, and council still has an opportunity to say yay or nay. So really what we're looking for from administration's point of view today is, Are there any of these items on this list that you would not support administrative effort being directed towards over the next couple of months to pull a plan and numbers into budget for council's consideration when it comes to your interim budget review in November?
Okay, thanks. I think that's good perspective. Holly, go ahead.
I'm not entirely opposed. We have spent a heck of a lot of money in Emerson Park Campground, and it is not used entirely by county residents. I don't know what the use is. I just want to make sure we're giving our ratepayers the best bang for the buck. We spend a lot on rec. Is this the best use of money for rec? So that's just a question I leave out there. I can't really, I don't have the numbers, but it's something to consider how we're spending our recreation funds.
Okay, thank you. And I think we'll be able to revisit that appropriately. Neil?
Yeah, I agree with what Holly just said. Like, there is a certain percentage of Rolling Hills Reservoir Campground reserved for farmers. And they get a discounted rate. I guarantee there'll be more farmers at Rolling Hills Reservoir on any day in the summer than there will be farmers out at Emerson Bridge. Emerson Bridge is nice, but there's not that many people out there. And we hit just as many of our ratepayers or more at Rolling Hills.
Okay, thanks. Adina?
I challenge you, if you don't camp out there, how do you know who's camping out there? And how do you know how much it's used if you're not camping out there?
I camped at Rolling Hills Reservoir when you were a baby. No, I know that I know how many farmers are out there, and there's a pile. There's a pile.
And if you don't go to Emerson Bridge, how do you know who's there?
Doesn't matter how many are there. There's fewer sites.
Let's move on. I think we'll have an opportunity to revisit this. I think Matt's heard that there's some capacity to at least consider this. And I see number 6.3 there is Emerson Bridge Park analysis. That will be rolled into this as well, I expect, right? Because that's already what we've started to address, right? What is the usage structure? So can I say that those two items are kind of knocked off with one here? Let's move on to 6.2 Range Road 145, which is the road that runs to the auction market from Castles Road, correct? Past the auction market. What are your thoughts on that? And where are we at? Oh, Holly, then Adina, and Matt, do you have any context, please?
Yeah, if I may, through the chair. Context on Range Road 14.5. Our gravel road study is complete, and this ranks as one of the highest roads for attention. I took a drive down it after the recent rains, and the thing certainly needs a shoulder pole and a crown, and it's pretty treacherous coming off the city's, I don't want to call it pavement, asphalt chips down into, like, there's a pretty severe drop there. So the road needs attention. We recently pulled a request for tender to get the gravel road reconstructed off so we could have this conversation, understanding this had been talked about as potentially being paved. So if we're going to show up and do some work on any of the gravel roads that are on our paving plan, we don't want to show up 2 years later and then pave the thing. We want to mobilize once. So that's space for this conversation. Does council support looking at that segment for being paved, or do you just want to get after doing the gravel road reconstruction and be done with it for 10, 20 years before you come back and pave it?
Okay, thanks for that, Matt. Holly, and then Adina, and then Kelly.
So I find that discussion a little confusing because no matter what, if we spend all that millions on that road, the city has no plans to correct their side in the near future. So I almost like it's a bit of a road to nowhere. Yes, it will be used, but most farmers do not go with their cattle going to Bow Slope. They come the other way. I don't think there's that many coming from that direction. If we look at economic development, will it generate more economic development? I'm with the city not doing their piece. I just don't really see the advantage of us investing that much money into a road that I'm not sure it's going to help that much for us.
Okay, thank you. Adina?
I was just looking for clarification. Is this road part of the eventual ring road truck route, or is this something separate? Separate? Okay.
Okay. Kelly?
Well, my comment was going to be similar to Holly's in that, are we going to build a substantial highway up to the city portion, or are we going to gift them with, how are you thinking this, Matt? Or this proposed road, because they did turn us down one time. We've asked them to partner on this road.
Thank you. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, administration is happy to take direction if the paving of the gravel section, which is the county's, one of the requisites needs to be the entire stretch, so the city needs to be partnering and doing their portion. That we could have that conversation with the city to see where their capacity's at. Administration's intention was just our stretch of the gravel road to bring to a paved standard, if that is where council wants to go. But we did not want to mobilize and reconstruct the gravel road without having the conversation about potential paving.
Yeah, that's good. Appreciate that. Greg?
Yeah, I think I think the usership is there. I mean, if they're having to do shoulder pulls and it's in pretty rough shape, the usership is there. I don't know who's using it. Is it our people, city people? I don't know, but it's our road and it's being used. So I think we should be doing it. And I do agree that a partnership with the city of Brooks is mandatory.
Thanks, Greg. I would tend to agree with you, and I don't know if mandatory, but I think if we're going to approach this, of course, we go back to the city and try to encourage them to make it complete the project at the same time. But Ellen, go ahead, please. And then
I
Neil.
wonder, Matt, if you can refresh how far that stretch is of our road, of our part.
2 miles. Mark? It's probably.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
That particular stretch of road is 1,100 meters. So 1.1 kilometers.
Okay, so it's not a very big stretch of road, but it can be rough.
No, that's the
county.
portion that has no surface treatment on it. It is strictly gravel from the Bow Slope Auction Mart, where we paved 600 meters south of Township Road 19-2 south, when we did the Joanne trucking work when I first started my employment with the county. No.
Okay, thank you. Neil?
Yeah, as far as usage goes, I've had, what have I had to phone you 3 times? Complaints from people living on the road because in the morning, 2 times morning and afternoon, everybody that works in all that industrial area out there hit that road, go to work. After the sales on Friday or whatever sale, there's a pile of people going to town that way. But without the town involved in this, I don't think it's worth proceeding. But we did go over it with, like Kelly and I did when we were in Wainwright with Petrie. He was very receptive to it. They didn't know why they hadn't done it before. So there's an opening there for us if we want to push it.
Okay. I would tend to say we should take a serious look at that. That's not very much of a space, but I'll tell you, it leaves a taste in your, or leaves you, I mean, it's a bad piece of road if you're coming north from, or south from the auction market there. And there's other ways, but that's true everywhere. I think it's a small piece that could be potentially fixed up, but we should try to do it with the city if we can. Dan?
Yeah, I don't see this as being a high priority at all, especially with the fact that we got to work and get the city involved to do the whole thing. But if the gravel road is in terrible shape, it needs to be fixed for sure. What about just putting some calcium on it if it's better than paving it? I've been in the area for 25 years. I've never driven that road. Seems like the folks are using it are mostly the folks that are using that the auction mart. It's a lot of expense for one business.
Yeah, no, it's a connector between Castles Road and the service road that runs along on the north side, kind of roughly parallels the Trans-Canada. So I think I don't know who uses it either, but it's a well-used road. Who did we have? Lynette? I think you.
It's a road that you use if you're pulling a trailer or something, you want to stay out of town. I use it quite often. But was this one of the roads where we had issues with landowners on either side? Do we think we might be able to smooth that a little better now?
That delayed it in the past, correct? So yeah, who can answer that or speak to it more specifically? We probably don't know, do we?
That is a correct assumption. That's where the municipal stimulus money was being directed originally before the pathway project came up. And land acquisition was one of the leading things identified in that discussion.
Okay, thank you. Holly, go ahead.
Does the fact that solar project was supposed to go in affect it at all?
No, it did not.
Okay, how do we move forward? I think I hear some resistance to actually making a decision, but I think there's some things that need to be clarified before we could make the decision that we were looking for, right? Because from management's perspective, either we got to fix that road as a gravel road, or if we're going to pave it in the next 5 years, we better make that decision now. It's not a very long stretch of road, but there are some issues around land acquisition, but all of that needs to be brought to a head, including the discussion with the City of Brooks, right? And we could do that and revisit it reasonably, Matt?
Yeah, so the question is, does council want administration to put that effort in between now and interim budget review? If the answer is yes, we'd like to see what this thing looks like and answer the question, is the City of Brooks willing to partner and do their stretch? Then we'd look for that direction. If you want to take a vote, you can certainly take a vote. If not, we will do that work and bring that back for interim budget review.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Kelly?
I just wanted to point out, this is our economic development area. It is at the height of our non-residential area, and it's a hub for economic development, and I think it should be cleaned up and done properly. Yeah. My thought.
I would agree. So I think we're on track. We'll revisit this in our budget review. Neil, you got another?
Yeah, it is a bit of a hub out there because you got UFA, you've got all those shops, you've got the New Holland dealership, Blue Line Trucking, Bow Slope. I think it's important to pave that little piece.
Thank you. Holly,
Just clarify understanding, so the direction is for administration to work with the City of Brooks, see what the response is and bring it back? Is that where we're at? Okay.
Yeah, we have a decision to make on this, and it will impact the budget because either the gravel road needs to be repaired, or if we want to pave it, we need to make that decision. So I think we're moving forward. Okay, let's move on to item 6.4, the minibus service. 6.3, I think I covered that in comments earlier, that in relation to the Emerson Bridge pump track, there will also be a park analysis of use. Is that what, that's what I understood that to be? Oh, sorry, was there an uncertainty about, go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering when the numbers were coming. Matt says not today.
Okay, yeah, okay. Good. 6.4, minibus service. What's the direction is there'll be a $2 increase in the user fee. What else do we need to discuss? Go ahead, Kelly.
So we've talked about this for many years, and we've set a plan in action years ago that the $2 be incremental to get it a little bit closer to user cost. I don't know a senior that values that service that is not willing to pay for that service. They may or may not have a real understanding of what it costs to run a car anymore, but we do. And we need to keep that service so that it's there for us when I need it.
Okay, thank you. Holly.
I think my question was around what does that bring it up to, and where are we at in that kind of cost? That was my question.
Mm-hmm. Can you speak to that, Matt?
Yeah, I can get a quick answer on that. The other thought I have in mind is an analysis coming back for interim budget review that compares the County of Newell's rate for the minibus service to our peers.
Yeah, okay. So we'll see that? Good. Thank you. 6.5, campground analysis. What's the context there that we need to, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, so this is one we provide in our budget documentation year over year. If you go to Emerson Bridge Park, at the very bottom, there's statistics and performance measures where we track the park usage. I don't have it off the top of my head, but we can get a quick answer for you there. And that's just part of the baked in performance measures and statistics that we track year after year.
And we'll revisit that when we make decisions around Emerson Bridge as well. So we're good with that?
Yeah, and likewise to the minibus comparison, we can pull some comparative rates for EID campgrounds, provincial guys, and our neighbors.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Township, 6.6 Township Road 182, which is the 1 mile stretch from south of the county buildings here running east to the 873, right? Which we understand will be rebuilt with shoulder widening. Again, we don't have the exact time frame, but we understand the province being willing to move on that next year, correct? So probably timely that we're thinking of that at this point. Is it? Go
Well,
ahead.
that's new information to me. So when did we hear this? That they're going to do widening and all this? Wait, am I talking about a different road? This is the one Greg's Road. You're talking about 873?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about Greg's Road. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear on that. It connects to Lake Newell Road, which is on the slate to be widened and recovered next year. On 873? Oh, we've discussed that prior, I think. Yeah. Well, the Minister of Transportation has indicated that he's moving on that, I think. So yeah. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, and I've talked to the landowners along that stretch of highway, and there's positive feedback that they would like to see that done. So that's that's what stalled it before.
Right.
So
I think unless someone wants the brakes on it, I think it's something we'll look at before final budget review, eh? Okay, that's good. 6.7, asphalt patching in the hamlets. Was that where that was the discussion there, Dan?
Yeah, so Kelly brought up the point afterwards that in the hamlet of Rolling Hills, the roads aren't going to be repaved until the infrastructure is done. And the residents down there are well aware of that. But there's some big holes, there's some really bad patches, that stuff that we've decided that we could just patch, refill, whatnot. The road going to the school is half gravel, half asphalt, and it's really bad. That's something that needs to be done, but then the rest of it is just small patchwork that needs to happen. So is that, does that fall within our paving plan to repair roads in that manner, or is that just a regular maintenance thing that we should be doing anyways? I feel like it's a regular maintenance thing, yeah.
Okay, Greg.
in the hamlets, is there any roads that don't need deep services, like specifically that particular one that goes to the school? Is there deep services beneath that one that needs to be done? You know, if that's one that doesn't need that, then we could do streets at a time. I don't know.
Who wants to speak to that? Holly, go ahead.
Well, I'm just wondering, because that, again, relates to the underground infrastructure upgrades, which, as I understand from you, Dan, Rolling Hills residents, as a general rule, aren't interested in upgrading at this point in time. So then goes back to the roads, and do you fix roads now and then fix them again later once you rip them up? Is it paid for by the residents of the hamlet, since there are aren't interested in fixing everything, it kind of affects other hamlets, how we handle them as well. Tilly and Scandia had everything dug up and fixed. The streets are being redone in Lake Newell Resort because they've reached end of life, but there's not underground stuff. So it's just an interesting discussion how to handle it.
Okay, thank you. What else do we need here?
I think my questions have been answered about it, so
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, so we're good to go. 6.8 as well? That's part of this discussion, correct? So we're good? Greg?
Through the chair, Councillor Short, the people that are opposed to it, is it just a couple? Is it a bunch? Is it majority? Is it what? I'm just wondering, like, the people are not up for it. Are they not wanting to pay for it through a levy? I'm not sure what you're hearing out there.
Dan, go ahead, please.
Every single person that I've talked to understands that the system needs to be replaced, and they're on board with it. Also, every single person I've talked to cannot afford the tax increase, so they're pushing it off. No matter how many times I tell them, the longer you push it off, the more expensive and harder it's going to be, it still doesn't change the fact that the increase that they'll have to endure now is too much for them. So it's a tough one to do. No one's going to want to, if we leave it to those residents to decide, they'll never decide to do it. So this decision eventually is going to have to be made for them, either after a complete failure where the system has to be redone, or somebody else makes the hard decision for them.
Okay, thanks. My question would be, what is the urgency of the decision-making factor here? Is that, can staff give us some estimate on that? Or?
There was an infrastructure master plan done several years ago about what was recommended to be done within the hamlet, and as Councillor Short has summarized, the community residents' voices said, we can't afford to do this. So that's where underground infrastructure hasn't been replaced. That's where we have been pushing the limits on the road surfaces to do what we can. We've got some scheduled patching and stuff down there where there's significant alligator and block cracking happening in roads. The school road, this becomes challenging because what we'd like to do is probably tear it all up, turn it back to gravel so we can at least maintain it so it doesn't pothole out. But every time you go in and try to take something away from somebody that's been there forever, that becomes a complete different perspective and public opinion back on the county and department as to what we're doing. The urgency behind this is, well, there's frustrations around wastewater systems because they have their septic tanks that have pumps in them that pump into a pressurized system until it gets to the lift station. There are challenges, costs that they're all bearing right now that perhaps if it was upgraded, maybe they wouldn't bear some of those costs to be a gravity sewer system. I can't confidently state that. We're going to need some kind of direction at some point in time from County Council as to what and when we do it. How we fund it. We had grant funding in place previously. The forgiving of that by the residents at the time. We're going to end up back in the queue with the application to do underground water replacement. I can't tell you when that would come about. Other than that, I don't know. Every other community that's been upgraded between Scandia and Tilly, there's been local improvements applied to those upgrades. The paving has been done by the county because we manage all roads and everybody can drive all roads, but the water and wastewater is for the user benefit. So,
okay, Greg, and then Ellen. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a bit baffled on can't afford it as an excuse, and that's an excuse for everything in life. The opportunity is there to amortize it over many, many years. And if it's broken down to someone that it's, we've decreased the residential tax rate each year for these type of things because we're making it more affordable for the residences. They're seeing a decrease in their tax rates you know, Rolling Hills is a growth hamlet. We've deemed it as a growth hamlet. They're gonna need, if the services need to be done, they need to be done. And I think it's council's responsibility to make that decision or not to ever do it. Ever is a long time, but I mean, it's one of those things that if it's a growth hamlet and we're putting resources and upgrades to the recreation facilities, all that stuff, and we're not doing our proper infrastructure, core infrastructure duties, then maybe we see that not as a growth hamlet.
Okay, thank you. Ellen?
Certainly interesting conversation. My question probably for staff would be, you talking about, Mark, about the Cadillac version, right? To have it all redone, the underground facilities and so on. Is there a little less expensive option, relining pipes? I've heard that before. Rosemary did that, for example. Any other possibilities there?
I think there's always opportunities. The relining of pipes in Rolling Hills is not an option because it's a pressurized system versus a gravity-fed system, so we can't go in and do that. That I would say is probably how the decision was made originally, was to go more affordable through this pressurized system, because it doesn't have to be buried at the same depths and grades as what the underground system with gravity fed would be. So there's some trade-offs in those decisions being made at those times, and I don't have all the history on that, obviously, because it predates me. We're just trying to work with what we have, and we know that there are generally a leak or two that show up every year or every two that we have to deal with. And as Councillor Short knows, this is why the postponement of doing any road works is there, because as soon as we pave it, we're probably going to be digging up brand new asphalt, and that's public perception that reflects back on county as well. So something at some point in time has to be scheduled, and I don't have the who, the how, the what, the when, but catastrophic failure would force the hand. As we can manage things that pop up from time to time, it's great, but eventually it needs to be redone.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Matt, you've got a comment, and then Holly.
Yeah, and just from administration's point of view, we're not interested in catastrophic failure. We're interested in getting after this thing before it hits that point. Man, it's just about 4 years ago now. I think we were sitting in a room doing strategic planning, and I think I made the comment about, after we get this phase 2 of the water taken care of, we need to redirect our grant funding, whether it's CCBF or the LGFF capital, towards revitalizing our growth hamlets. We have had studies completed on Rolling Hills. We know what the capacity is there. That $500,000, you can stack it for up to 5 years, and maybe that's the plan that we need to start bringing some clarity to council moving forward.
And you could do that as part of this budgeting consideration. I think we should do it. I'm hearing you say exactly, and that was my question, is how are we at risk? And I think you've answered that, so I would say let's go ahead. But Holly, you've got a comment?
When you say catastrophic failure, so that happens, how long is it to put the system in and fix it, replace it once it's catastrophic failure? What's the timeline?
There is no timeline. That would be a City of Calgary situation where you have a water line, right? Catastrophic with wastewater in Rolling Hills is not likely, I would say. It would be more, you'd have several failures all at one time, not a collapse of the system, because that's just not how it's designed. It's feeding into a gravity pipeline for the last 50 meters or so. So it's not under pressure and stress that it can't get pumped. It's pumping. It's just the residents themselves continually have struggles. And that's That's something that I look back at Tilly, where they couldn't afford to replace their pumps in their lift station. They were paying for vac trucks to suck the effluent from here to put it in lagoons there, where that $400 an hour would have been better served replacing infrastructure than dealing with repairs. It all adds up and costs money over time is the point there.
Okay, and I think Matt's given us the context on this that I think I need is just let's include it in our discussions. So there is, unless someone's opposed to that, we'll revisit it. And Dan, please.
I'm not opposed to it, and I don't think anybody's interested in seeing a major failure. Every single person would be interested in avoiding that. And it sounds like, from what you're saying, Greg, I agree with it, and I'm about ready to make the hard decision for them. So I'd like to see some information come back for it, because this can't just get pushed down the road.
No, and I think your context with regard to response from ratepayers is reasonable too. I mean, those are things that we'll have to deal with as we, if we decide to move forward officially, right? So I think this is good. Okay, we'll move forward. Let's go to 6.9, CDC South. This is one that we won't probably make give us some context with regard to what you think we're looking at here, Matt.
Yeah, devil's in the details.
Yes.
I mean, I cannot thank Todd and Candace enough, Todd's team, for what they've accomplished since we've taken that site over. We're only 4 months in, and Todd's been worked ragged. We've worked Candace ragged. Donovan's been out there. The place is looking great. We've got the Griffin building full, which means paying customers. This is excellent. We've got some research happening on the grounds. It's a live question, what capacity, and that's always the question, what capacity do we need to manage the place properly, and what resources are available to do that? Internally, the conversation's been around, this is the first year. We're finding all the leaks, the rusted out items. We're taking care of decades of deficiencies to get the site up and marketable. I am not willing to run Todd, Candace, Donovan, the team ragged for very long. We have resources earmarked for this year. We're hoping paying customers show up and will provide the resources that need to match the capacity required for the site. We're learning lots of good lessons from the researchers who are on site in terms of the service level they expect and that we are or are not able to deliver to them. I think come November, we'll have a season under our belts. We'll have harvested some barley, and we'll have a line of sight on how our team at the county manages the building envelopes, the land base, the pivots. We'll have a line of sight on how much of that $3 million capital and $500,000 operating the province has directed towards the CDC, and we'll get closer to answering the question, do we need the same hours out of our team marketing year over year, or do we have 3, 5, 10-year lease agreements in place, and that initial push is going to pay dividends? Because if we have to continually market this thing the same way we have this year, we're going to need more capacity. It's a live question, one we don't have the answers to, but it will be a big conversation come November.
So I think that'll continue, and we also have a subcommittee that is, or the site project committee that will give some direction, hopefully, towards some bigger picture visioning for the site as well. So I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on this, other than to identify it as an uncertainty, but one that's going to be moving for us in the next year. So, Neil.
Yeah, I think the only thing we should be interested in is the numbers that are going to come out in November. And if it's $500,000 or if it's going to cost us whatever to run that place, then we have to make the hard decision. We committed, we actually went around this table, number Matt threw out was $800,000. and we were willing to gamble that. So we got to stick in for this year anyways. See how it works. The greenhouse is going to be a challenge for the guys. I know that for sure. But until the real numbers come in and we see where we're at, we're in, whether we like it or not. So the hard decision will be, the hard or the easy decision will be made this fall.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Matt, and then Adina, please.
And for context, where my head's at administratively is we're going to need to be sitting down with the Minister of Agriculture at RMA come fall and doing a check-in, a check-up, a good news story, surfacing where we've got in comparison to what the province was able to do with the site. And hopefully we'll have a willing partner to keep this thing going. We've got great things shaking out there. The effort that's been put in is bringing $3.5 million of activity to the region. That's a pretty good economic development program right there. You put in 170, we're putting in some staff time, and the province is ponied up 3.5. That's good return on investment, and it's positioning the CDC South to serve the purpose it was established for, innovation in the agricultural research space. We're getting some good press. You know, we're showing up in the Western Producer. We're having some positive events out there. I mean, we've turned Todd into a salesman. Anybody who wants to see that place, Todd and Candace are showing them that. Those of you who did the tour a couple of weeks ago with RMA, what did Todd say? You gotta entertain 100 people to make one sale, and we're doing that. So I think the effort persists. We're positive about it. We're getting some good press, and the more people we get exposed to the site, including RMA, right? I mean, the board didn't know the asset existed.
Yeah, I want to speak to that, but I want to hear Adina first, and then I'll say some things about this too. So go ahead, Adina.
Well, I was just going to say, I understand Neil's concern, but we're looking at it now. We have a manager who's got the thought in the mind that we want to make money. So, you know, what's gone on in the past with the government and CDC South, that is nothing like what we're going to do with it. So, you know, there's nothing but good times ahead, I feel.
That's a great comment, I think, and listening to Kara Westerland, having seen it, she knew nothing about what was going on out there. She just said, "This is amazing, and what an opportunity." And that those are soft words in a lot of ways, but I think there's more here than certainly was in the past, and I've been at a few places outside of the area in the last few weeks too, and there continues to be a great deal of interest and accolades with regard to what the county's done. So that's credit to Matt and Todd and Candace and your team. That's impressive. And yeah, it wouldn't happen without the county stepping up to say, let's try to make something out of something that's been kind of going to nothing and has potential. So yeah, okay. We can move forward knowing this is going to be on our agenda again. So let's move forward. New paving overlay impact 6.10. 1. Yeah, 10. Exactly. Matt, go ahead.
What I understand this one to be is, can we just have some refreshed, updated analysis on if we pave another couple of miles of road, what does that whole life price tag look like? Because we pave it this year for, call it $1 million a kilometer, and then we do an overlay in 20 years at $600,000 per kilometer. What does that look like? Have I read it right?
Lynette, go ahead.
Well, and also my point was to any of the overlays that we are going to be doing on our past roads, how much of an increase is, like, because things have gone up exponentially, right? Like, so how much of a difference are we looking at from what we had planned years ago? That's what I...
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Matt, and then Adina.
Yeah, I got you. And I think that is key. So rewind to one of the slides, and I put cost of living 2%. we don't pay a 2% inflation rate in the municipal world. And I can guarantee you that the inflation rate on where our overlay price tag has gone, and we'll have some actual numbers we can crunch, having Silver Sage being overlaid. We've got a few coming up pretty quick here as well, 15.0. We'll have some interesting numbers for you on what that inflation profile looks like over time.
Okay, good. Thank you. Adina?
Of course, I'm, very excited about the prospect of having the old number one finish the paving there. I'm anxious to see, you talked about there'll be numbers, counts. Be interesting to see what the vehicles count is there on that road, especially, if we can get the west end, Tilly is a growth hamlet. If we can get the west end developed, get that road paved, that'd be awesome as far as Div 2.
Okay. Thank you. Greg?
Well, and the cost analysis of paving versus leaving as gravel, and over 6 years, if we need to, do an overlay, what is the cost of running a grader there every, so yeah, I'd like to see the full numbers of the comparison of leaving it gravel or paving it.
Okay, thanks. And those will be considerations we'll have as we move forward. Let's go on to 6.11, recreation arena upgrades and replacement. That is something that's current for us in a number of places. What do we need to consider here? Neil and then Kelly.
Just after our experiences so far, I think we have to be prepared for some pretty creative funding models, because these things are all getting old. It's like our halls. If we want to continue with the same service we have, it's going to cost a little bit of money. Mm-hmm. So either start planning for it now or just let it hit like it did in Dutchess. I don't know the answer, but I think that's a big one coming at the county.
Okay, thank you. Kelly?
Well, specific to arenas, I think we need to, again, be ready, but somehow identify where it makes sense and where it doesn't. We were all given these arenas in 1967, the centennial year. They're all coming of age. There's maybe 2 that were built after 67. Do we all need an ice rink in the county of Newell? Like, are we overpopulated? Somehow we need to answer some questions where the dollars need to go for replacement, in my opinion. We did fund a recreation master plan back in maybe 10 years ago. We've got that on file, but maybe it needs to be dusted off and looked at again. I'm not sure if that would answer any questions or support our decision making, but definitely the arena conversation needs to be had, and not just within this table. I think it needs to be had at the CAO level in preparation for planning in those municipalities. Just my thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Greg?
Yeah, my thought, some of the infrastructure within the arenas needs to be upgraded. The compressor pumps, those type of things every so often, right? If we know when those are coming of age to be redone, we can work it in just like we do paving. The building, I mean, if it's a tin building and or if the roof needs to be replaced or whatever, we need to have kind of a timeline of when those things need to be done. And I think it's up to the individual egg society or whoever runs that building to come up with a capital plan on how these things are going to get replaced. I know that we've been asked out at Lake Newell Resort to come up with some kind of capital plan so that it's not sprung on us. Oh, the compressor went. Well, we knew it was going to go because it was becoming end of life. So, yeah, That for me is the infrastructure needs to have a plan for maintenance and as these things depreciate.
Okay, thank you. I think those are going to be realities that are going to be revisited. Who was? Amanda, I'm sorry, Amanda. Go ahead.
Yeah, Duchess, their plant is 1.4 million to replace their ice plant. They're looking at all kinds of grants and other opportunities to help cover those costs. So we have to remember too that, you know, a lot of these ag societies are all volunteers. They're doing what they can with what they've got. So, and Duchess is a fairly new arena. It is not a 67 build. So we just have to keep that in mind as well.
Okay, good, thank you. Dan, please.
Yeah, it is being run by volunteers that are doing everything they can. And I agree with what you're saying, Greg. We should know what's coming up. We should have an idea, and that's why the Rolling Hills Ag Society did that. There is a capital plan, so there is kind of an idea of when to expect to change these things. And reg is important. You can say what you want about, do we need an arena in Rolling Hills or here and there and the other places? If you were going to build one now, would you build it? Absolutely not. I couldn't see a situation where we would agree to build a new arena in Rolling Hills or Tilly or wherever, but they're there, and they're very expensive pieces of infrastructure. So it's there, it's being used. Let's make sure they're kept up to date and kept in good shape. So I got no issue at all with fixing these things up when they need it. And in fact, I think we should be putting a little bit more effort into making sure all of our reg is in good shape. And the idea of having a plan for it and putting the money away the same way we were if it was our paving plan, I think that's a great idea. Because these things are going to break and they are going to need to be repaired, and we should be doing that.
Okay, and I think it kind of comes in the same context as the conversation we had a couple of minutes ago around making sure that the infrastructure in the small hamlets is up to snuff and we're not letting them depreciate, because it's keeping that current that also makes it a place where people want to settle and increase population as much as we can going forward too. Matt?
And I'll just take this opportunity to remind council, falling out of that recreation review in 2016, the county has dedicated the equivalent of $500,000 on your tax rate towards the recreation fund. So that strategy is there and it's working so far. The county's been able to pay the bills when folks have shown up looking for support. So that is there. Is it sufficient to replace everything? The answer's no. But we have awesome volunteers in the county working with the Duchess Ag Society now, and council has been open to creative funding mechanisms, offering some of your debt capacity to Duchess Ag Society to get additional work done. And I think when folks see the reality, they start to calibrate the expectations on things, because it's okay to have a wish list and want, but you have to match it with the capacity of the community to fund. And give credit to the ag societies, the volunteer groups. The county has been asking in our agreements for specific credit for the funding, financial reporting, and a capital plan, at least a 5-year. And 5 years not sufficient on capital. You need to go 20. You need to see this coming at you for decades so that you can be prepared for it properly. So credit to the volunteers. They're dancing to the tune we've asked them to dance to. They're doing that capital planning work, but it's a huge job. And for the volunteers who haven't done it before, it's huge. Where do you go for all the information and identifying the components of your arena, what's going to go when? It's a lot of work. So credit to them, and credit to County Council for socking away some funds, having the insight that there is going to be services you want to maintain, and you don't want to shock to the system all at once.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on. 6.12, repairs to the fencing. Where does that fit? Is that routine or does that need to be, Matt, go ahead.
I might suggest this is routine and administration can take this one offline and figure out who needs to be on the hook for replacing the fencing or taking care of that. And if a request for funding support needs to come from the community group or whoever's responsible, then we can look after that. But I'll take that one.
Okay, thank you, Matt. And that brings us to item number 7, adjournment. Is there anything else that we need to discuss before we adjourn? If not, a motion to adjourn would be in order. I'll thank Amanda. All in favor of adjournment. We'll adjourn the meeting at 20.